Hey everybody. Just a quick announcement before we get started. In the time between the last episode and the release of this episode, Psychotropic has reached over 1,000 downloads, which is pretty exciting for me. I just wanted to say thanks for making that happen. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm excited for what's to come. The fact is that I really enjoy your guys' stories, and I love drawing those stories out and being able to put them together into something that makes sense to other people and is interesting and at least attempts to do some justice to the person telling the story. I think that we all have really amazing stories to tell, and it'll be really cool to see what stories come about in the future. So again, thanks for helping me reach 1,000 downloads, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey, how you doing, man? Is this Ben?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Hey, is this your real name, or did you do a made-up one?
A real name.
Is it okay if I call you by that, or would you prefer going by something different?
Ben's fine. I'm a writer, so I have my free time to myself.
Really? You make a living writing?
More I make a living publishing, but I try to make a living writing. I write my own books. I wrote The Meaning of Life and Other Useless Crap, and then I wrote Norm the Normal. But they don't sell all that well, so most of the books I sell are public domain books, old books, and I also sell a few puzzle books, like Sudoku puzzles and such. I made the puzzle books myself. The public domain books, the old books that are easy ones to publish, I go through and edit those and design the covers for them and put them up for publishing.
Do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No questions.
Psychotropic presents Ben.
How would you describe yourself?
Really laid back, kind of a shut-in. Easiest description. Further description would be a polymath, someone interested in multiple topics and determined on mastering them. Right now I'm doing some stencil artwork, and then I'm editing one of my books that I'm going to have up online here shortly.
Could you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Well, my parents were divorced right when I was, probably before I was even born. They had a problematic relationship. They're not a good couple at all whatsoever. But my parents had a very hard time punishing me as a kid because I would sit in a corner and entertain myself for hours on end. So I spent most of my childhood in my head any time I got in trouble. So grounding didn't do anything whatsoever.
What got you to respond to my ad?
Well, I just seen your ad up, and, well, any publicity is good for selling books, so.
Can you restate what your books were called?
The Meaning of Life and Other Useless Crap. It's a small, it's not even a novella length. It's mostly a pamphlet explaining the meaning of life and how to end hurricanes and flooding along the Mississippi and basically anything that you can't make any money at. And my other one's Norm the Normal, which is a farce taking the reality TV culture to the extreme.
What gave you the ideas to write those?
Oh, the meaning of life, I figured it out a long time ago. I just never really cared to put it in print. Norm the Normal was kind of the election of Donald Trump, kind of, a reality TV star. It doesn't matter what he does, he just goes on.
Why do you believe you understand what the meaning of life is?
Well, I figured it out 20 years ago. I've been explaining it to everybody ever since, and no one has been able to even say, nope, that's not it. You take the meaning of life, and if it's the meaning of life, that means everybody must understand it implicitly. It must be ingrained in you, or what you're talking about can't be the meaning of life. It would be philosophy or religion or something like that. So the next question is, why can't we explain it? The easiest thing is the English language doesn't have the corresponding words that we need. A couple million words in the English language, figuring out that there are some missing is kind of odd in the first place. So then you look at religions and philosophies, and you will find a common thing in everything that you do. The first is the duality of humanity. So we need a single thing that makes two, for good and evil, and logic and reason, and emotions. So you find one where you make the world a better place, and two, you live. You enjoy life. And you can find it in every religion. Jews have this point where God made the world imperfect, so we have something to finish. And it's our job to finish it.
And so is that the meaning of life?
Yes, to live and leave. To live your life to the fullest and leave the world better than you've came and found it. It's written into every religion across the globe as soon as you figure it out. Live and leave, and it's the main basis for most philosophies and religion in the world.
How did you come to this realization?
Well, it was a long time ago. I first figured it out by using religion in itself. If we had the meaning of life, it would have to have been written into religion. So I took religion and deconstructed it all to figure out what was the common, what all the laws written, do this, God says, do that. All of them boil down to one or two things. One is to live, and one is to make the world a better place. And so that's how I originally came up with it.
Do you believe you are fulfilling your role in your interpretation of the meaning of life?
I solved the meaning of life. That was my biggest contribution to the world. But until recently, I've been kind of slacking and not more living and enjoying myself through intellectual thought and solutions than actually making the world a better place. And I'm kind of regretting how much I've slacked in my life.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, there's a lot of things I'd like to do right now, but since I haven't done all the work that I need to do them, I can't. So all the time that I've wasted in my life is just coming back, where if I continue to work, because I saw the meaning of life when I was 12 or so. If I put it in a book then, I could have written more books along the way, and so I'm working on my third book now, which honestly it would be more like my 50th if I actually put in the work along the way.
So I hear you saying this, and it sounds like you're kind of beating yourself up for just, I guess, enjoying yourself through time instead of, say, trying to solve real world problems that are going to benefit others. How do you feel about the idea that by you just enjoying yourself and not harming others, you're actually helping to improve the world? Because by you enjoying yourself and walking down the street, say with a positive air about you, that can subliminally rub off on people who walk by you and thus make their day a little bit better, which in my mind brings about inspiration, or a certain degree of inspiration. Like if you're pissed, you might not be as inspired to do something positive that will benefit others. But if you are in a good mood and you're feeling positive, then maybe you will start to have ideas. You'll have an increase in confidence, and this increase in confidence will increase the probability that you do something that will benefit your fellow man. What do you think about that?
Well, that is a good way to look at it, but what I'm looking at is the level of what I could do. I figured out how to stop hurricanes in the 9th grade because we can just end all hurricanes in the world easy enough. And we spent $1 trillion on hurricanes in the last decade. For less than $1 billion a year, we can stop them. But if I had more of a platform, I could do that. I could convince even a single state would be able to just stop hurricanes by setting up reflectors in the parts of the ocean that actually create hurricanes. So, yes, I have done a lot of work to make people right around me's lives better and push them to be better people. However, I could have done so much more. That's kind of what I've been kicking myself for.
Can you elaborate on these reflectors?
Yeah, hurricanes, like fire, this is in my book, The Meaning of Life and Other Useless Crap. Hurricanes, like fires, are based on a 3-tier requirement. Fire needs heat, fuel, and oxygen. You remove any one of those, fire goes out instantly. Now, hurricanes require heat, water, and the spin of the earth. You remove any one of those, the hurricane dies instantly. So if you have reflectors on the ocean, which absorbs 90% of heat from the sun, and you reflect 90% of it, say a square mile of basically just a balloon sitting along the ocean reflecting the sunlight back up into the atmosphere, you would be looking at 17 million gallons of water decreased 1 degree C per day. And then you have a 30, 40 of them, you would have an end to hurricanes completely, because there wouldn't be it's 26 degrees C for a hurricane to form. That's why we have hurricane season, because that's when the water gets warm. So if you reflect it during that time, the hurricanes cannot form at all.
Do you think that would impact ecosystems?
It most definitely would. But we're talking about, we spent over $1 trillion. I think in Florida it's 1.5 trillion, and in New Orleans they had $700 billion. So we like at $2 trillion spent. I think if we spend less than $1 billion a year to end hurricanes, I think we can do some remedial damage from what little we're adjusting the environment. with the extra trillions of dollars that stopping them would save us.
You contacted me because of my ad, and that basically pertains to substance use. Why did that pique your interest?
It was just there. I don't have any representation. Your ad, gives me publicity right off the bat.
So have you used drugs before?
Yes. Just basically weed is the only thing I meant to use, and caffeine, but I'm assuming you're talking about illegal drugs.
No, anything. Anything.
Well, I hate coffee, so I take caffeine pills.
Okay,
No.
what do those do for you?
Oh, they just wake me up, keep me going.
And then as far as your marijuana use, can you describe that?
I was using marijuana for writings. And actually that's going to be my next book here that I'm editing here shortly. It's High Rants.
Your book is titled High Rants?
Yes, it's exactly how it sounds. I rant and rave, and when I'm high, that's basically it. I did it mostly for myself, but one conversation with Michael Cohen, and it pissed me off so much that I just, might as well publish it.
Why do you find yourself ranting while you're high?
I write while I'm high mostly because the mere fact that I don't remember everything I do when I'm high, and that's just such a waste. I mean, you spent money, and you really want to know some of the things you find, because I'm thoroughly entertained with myself sitting in a corner, staring at the corner while I'm high. And the stuff that I write explains it all to everybody why I can sit in a corner and do nothing whatsoever. One of the chapters, I explain when they say both sides do this, both sides do that, both sides are partisans. Everybody says that. All news says it every single time they get that. And so, the thing is, no matter how partisan you are, both sides don't add up. You take Ralph and you take Dean. Ralph stopped masturbating because he was told that would make him go blind. Dean stopped masturbating because his girlfriend wants to have more sex. Are they partisan masturbator abstainers?
And so these are the things that you kind of think about while you're stoned.
Yeah.
And decided that this would be a good idea to put in book format.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like somebody would want to read that?
It's just funny. Thoroughly entertaining.
Can you describe one of these times that you've been high and what leads you to these thoughts? Maybe start how you prefer ingesting, and then what happens from there.
Well, I mostly smoke. I've tried eating before, but I never can regulate it to where I get it where I'm enjoying myself. It's always too much or too little, and I sit staring at the wall, unable to think or move, or I go about my normal day. So I see that kind of as a waste. But I smoke, and the thing is, the ideas just pop in my head all day long. Things to do, art designs. I kind of run out of time versus run out of ideas. I got about 25 book ideas that I haven't even started working on.
And these are direct results of you being stoned?
No, these are just things that, I thought would be an awesome book.
Do you smoke on a daily basis?
No, I stopped smoking here a while back. That's why I kind of ran into only 97 chapters in High Rants. My grandfather doesn't want it in the house, so as long as I'm in Seattle, there's no smoking. But once I get the High Rants fully edited and I needing to make a second book, I'm going to fly on down to Las Vegas and spend a couple weeks with my mom writing.
Have you ever been interested in using anything else?
No, not really. I've always had a fascination with hallucinogens due to the fact that my mind erases so much. I would love to figure out what it does, when I can actually create objects out of thin air. But I've never had access to them.
So you kind of come to these insights while you're stoned, right? And in fact, you've had enough of them to where it prompted you to write a book that, you think people are going to be entertained while reading. Why do you think it is that when you ingest marijuana, you have these novel insights?
Well, most of these insights I already have, but when I'm high, I can explain them with ease to people. And I can explain them funny. I mean, I try not to use my intelligence against people because I find it kind of cruel, like kicking a child. But when I'm high, I think it kind of levels the playing field, so I'm willing to, point out people's stupidity on that kind of level.
On a level that they won't become offended with.
Yeah. Makes it easier for me to explain things to people where I don't, have to worry about them getting extremely upset about it. Because every time I try to explain that there is two sides, doesn't mean partisanship is equal, I always upset them.
So going back to that partisanship, because I guess it wasn't really a question that I was addressing in my mind, whether or not it was equal or not, but that is kind of interesting. Could you elaborate on that?
Partisanship being equal, or?
You kind of suggested that partisanship does not mean that the two sides are equal.
Okay. Well, okay, you have Democrats that refuse to vote for Republicans, right?
Well, sure, yes.
And you have Republicans that refuse to vote for Democrats.
Yes.
But the thing is, Republican states have higher crime across the board. So you can't vote for a Republican because you're saying Republicans are tough on crime if their states have higher crime. You also can't vote for a Republican because you want a good job because Democratic states have those good jobs. Democratic states have higher pay, more jobs, better opportunities. If you want your kid to go to college, best you live in a Democratic state because Democratic states are more likely to send your kid to college. You're less likely to die from a disease if you live in a Democratic state. So if you look at it, there is really no reason whatsoever to vote for a Republican except for their insistence that they're going to lower taxes. So if you look at the states from red to blue, red states have 1 to 2% lower taxes than blue states. However, that comes at a cost of higher crime, lower employment, worse roads. I mean, every single outcome that you would want as a citizen. So if you say, well, Democrats are partisan too, they won't, vote across the aisle. But what they're voting across the aisle for is worse outcomes across the board. You can't really say, well, Democrats are partisan too, because Democrats refuse to vote for Republicans because every outcome is worse. So partisanship cannot be considered equal.
Do you think there's a chance that you're actually putting the cart before the horse? Could higher crime rates, worse roads, less people going to college, etc., have more to do with something about the nature of that area or that state that results in people adopting more of a Republican conservative mindset?
That was one of the things I was thinking about. I took the data from the IRS taxes, how much taxes each state puts in versus how much the federal government spends for each state. I pulled up all the data online and analyzed it. There is a difference between Democrat states pay for every dime they get back from the federal government, and they donate trillions of dollars to the federal government. Where Republican states over the last 1998 to 2015, Republican states took in hundreds of billions of dollars every year and took $5 trillion. And they didn't take $5 trillion. They added $5 trillion from what they took from the federal government onto our national debt. And then I looked at the difference between what Democratic states donate and what Republican states take. And over the last 20 years, the gap has widened significantly. So Republican states take more money and Democratic states donate more money to the federal government. It was a $200 billion difference in 1998, and it moved up to $500 billion difference in 2015. So we see there is a moving between, the longer the Republicans remain in control in their states, the more welfare they take from the federal government. And then I also I also looked at the crime rates from the FBI data over the last, I have the charts up here. Where's that? Okay. Percentage of increase in crime rates from 2011, the violent crime in Republican states has gone up every year over the percentage of, so in 2011, the percentage of violent crime increase in Republican states was around 16-17% over what Democratic states have. And in 2016, violent crime in Republican states is up 31%. So there is an argument where it might be that Republicans just vote for Republicans because their states were already messed up, but their states are progressively getting worse.
Yeah, it kind of, so what I think about with this is I wonder if, say, Democratic states tend to have more natural resources. I have no idea about any of this. This is all speculation. You probably know a lot better than I do. But I could imagine this scenario where Democratic states have more natural resources, therefore they have a higher influx of money, therefore they can spend more money and donate more money, where Republican states, they have fewer natural resources, and so in order to sustain their state, they actually need an input of capital or money. And that results in a mindset where people feel like they have to save and they have to conserve because they're already borrowing money and there's not a whole lot of money to be had anyways. and this puts stress on a population, which could result in higher crime. And how do I want to?
Well, yeah, I understand that argument, but okay, Oklahoma was back in 2016 actually paying for itself. It actually moved out of taking welfare from the federal government. And then we had the recession, but beyond the recession, we had all the Oklahoma earthquakes, which damaged their state due to the fact that they weren't regulating injection wells. And so I plotted how much money they had taken in, and from what they were taking in 2008, from what they are taking in 2015, they're taking another $5 billion or so, due to probably mostly just the fact that they did not regulate their economy. I mean, regulate the injection wells. So the federal government has to step in for all the damage that they caused. So I understand that there might be a way where you look at a lot of Republican states, but I think it's much more along the lines of long-term policies in the individual states than just Republicans. I mean, people voting Republicans in states that have nothing in the first place.
Let's switch topics for a second. What makes you interested in psychedelics?
It's just how my mind works. If I can entertain myself just building worlds inside my own head, I probably could, control the high so I can build a visual world in front of myself. Because to entertain myself, I write novels completely in my head with characters that are just outside this world and just go through the natural logical progression of how I've set up the world.
And this is something you would try to control with hallucinogens.
Yeah.
What do you think you might see or experience on hallucinogens?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't really have any kind of frame of reference for that.
But your interest is piqued for some reason.
Well, I figure I could create worlds where I could, manipulate the images themselves. If, I can stay in control of what I want to see.
You obviously think things through. You're thoughtful. However, we might take your statement about dumbing things down for others as arrogant. Additionally, some people, especially those familiar with hallucinogens, might view your belief that you could control your trip as naive and a potential recipe for a bad trip. What would be your response to that, to those two things?
Well, it is very arrogant from what I think, but then again, out of 40,000 years of human trying to solve the meaning of life, I was able to do it before I even, grew interested in girls. But the thought that I might be able to control the trip itself is much more in line with wild. It's a dream method where you control your dreaming in itself. It takes some time, it takes effort, but I've actually been able to do it where I fall asleep and have complete control of my dreams. So I was thinking that is extremely difficult and very hard to do, and it requires years to figure it out and get it right. I was thinking that the hallucinogens, since I'm able to do that, I would be able to actually do it with the hallucinogens. But then again, I see hallucinogens are probably a little too dangerous, so I kind of probably will never get to find out if that's actually true.
Would you mind reading one of your rants?
This is the darkest Harry Potter theory. This is High Rant 18. I mean, there are some things that are great about legalization. You can always get some. Yeah, that's all I got. But the stories are nice, clean, and everything is in its right place. I personally like weed before it was legal. Go ahead and call me a traditionalist, but I like the surprise that you get when you go down into a basement or out to the garage to find out what the guy has. I mean, these kids today with all of their choices, it will spoil them, and all that they need to do was find the closest scumbag. Here's the funny thing. They think that they were getting away with something, but in reality, the scumbag gave me half of the profit, so I didn't kick his ass for selling weed to my kids. I mean, I kind of feel bad, like as a father. I must have been a bad one because my kids are suckers. Why use bribery when you can use force? My kids will be broke before I die. Retirement. That has been what I've been thinking of lately. How am I going to retire? Maybe a Comic-Con for world diplomats? Have early releases and special perks for world leaders? I mean, get them into any fandom and extremely addicted to the universes? Tell them that if they can prove their love of their universes, you'll let them see the first draft and shit. Yeah. If they are hooked, we got them. At this point, we can ask them for the children to be named Dr., Harry, Isa, and Naruto, then to be flayed on national television. We would own them. I want to make it absolutely clear. When I say we would own them, if your mind went to me saying that we would get some slaves up in this country again, you were right. We'd have complete access to their every dream. What wouldn't they do for us at this point? We could have world peace or make all the fatties stay indoors. There are solutions to our problems, people. We might have to hand feed them with fandom for a few years, but it would be worth it. They would get to have their fan theories ruled on by the authors themselves. Why, yes, I'm not that horrible Skeeter person, but am the Dark Lord that rules almost unopposed now over the wizards, and will for all time. I just need those final bits of information to complete everything. So you did find that little bit of information that turns the whole Harry Potter franchise on its head. The books were to gather two answers. One, how can you hold a dozen wands in your hand, increasing your spell strength, without looking like an idiot? The answer is undetectable expansion charm with two distinct usable holes for the shafts. 2, does the soul the Horcrux suck in become part of the original, creating a super-souled individual that could then divide their souls safely? It turns out soul pieces just need enough mass to hold themselves together, creating a stable Horcrux. Once you see behind that curtain, you can never unsee it. A beloved story told to our children has turned into the disease blankets we gave the Indians, where an endless rule of the wizards will be short at hand, just as soon as J.K. Rowling stamps out a man with a lightning-shaped scar on his head. Everyone will stop bowing and worshiping her because of the beautiful world she stole to get those final bits of information, and start bowing and worshiping her because that is the only thing you get to live for anymore. It's also the only way you get to live. You ever have those moments in your life you look back to and know that was the moment everything got so fucked? We have them. If I only did this, everything would have worked out for me. Let me say this. If you have only made one mistake that has brought you to this point, literally the entire world has it out to get you from before you were born. I'm literally saying that the world all came together and said, we want to fuck with someone so that life is shit, no matter how good or smart they are. They trained your parents to fuck you up just enough so nothing you ever do will matter. So let's go to this mythical turning point in your life where everything was going to be wonderful for a fuck up like you.
This episode was produced by me, Philip Johnson. You can find a list of all songs used in the description section of this episode. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe. Also, leave a review. I'd really appreciate it. Lastly, if you have a story that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it. Shoot me an email at psychotropicpodcast@hotmail.com and let's make something happen. Thanks again, everybody. See you next time.